Hey kids, it's Old Man shouting at clouds, and now with others too. Chatting about the CFL is what they're going to do. Some have no contacts and others have no clues. Everyone will tell us all their quirky football views. Hear what Old Man and others know. It's the CFL Outsiders Show.
Hey, GT. What are we going to do this week?
Same thing we do every week, old man. Take over the CFL.
Hey, kids. Welcome back to another episode of the CFL Outsiders. I remain, as always, your 100% unbiased, completely impartial, and happy host, Old Man Shouting at Clouds. Joining me this week is our usual panel, GT.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Another week here. It's, as you can probably tell, I'm back in the home studio, or as my wife calls it, the basement. And here we are. It's Tuesday night. We're all revved up with nowhere to go. So let's do a podcast.
Sounds great. And also MJ.
Hey everyone. I came off a great weekend of football. Not only did the Ticats win, but my kid had his flag football playoffs. So they played 3 games. They ran the table, won the tournament, and my kid scored 7 touchdowns. So it was a great weekend
congratulations.
For me.
Future Olympic flag star there.
I hope so.
Well, you've got a right to be happy. I'm happy too, because it was a great weekend of football, but even though that Riders-Lions game was as fantastic as it was, that's not my prime happiness. Mostly I'm happy because I mentioned last week I was so close to getting back out and being able to hike and that, and I've done it. My puppy and I have been out a couple of days now, so nothing huge, 2 or 3 kilometers, but I'll say this, I was doing the treadmill a bit to get my stamina up, and I thought I was ready. Boy, is it different in real hills and stuff. It's not too far that I'm walking, and I'm taking a day off in between. MJ, you were saying there's some kicker news going on in Montreal.
So, friends, today I saw an Instagram post that said Lewis Ward signs with the Alouettes. It's like, excuse me? With the Alouettes? And then someone's like, no, he's signed to the practice roster. And I'm like, on Instagram looking, and Lewis Ward's posted a story of him traveling via rail, first business class. I'm like, interesting. And then the Montreal Gazette said that Maltos Diaz wasn't at practice. What's going on? I just looked at the injury report. Maltos Diaz is out with a groin injury. So Get ready for Lewis Ward this weekend, friends. But I'm happy he's found a little landing spot. I hope if Maltos can't kick, I hope Lewis Ward goes out and excels.
We kind of thought he'd be the number one signing if and when an injury happened across the league, and there it is already showing up. So yeah, there's a few of those guys like that kicking around, pardon the pun, or don't. We'll probably see a few more of those type of signings over the next few weeks as players get injured and have to be moved around a bit. We saw one in Ottawa this week too, and we'll talk about that in a little while.
The thing with Ward is he won't be hitting those 55, close to 60 yarders that Maltos Diaz does, but from 45 and in, he's probably, he should be close to money. He had an off year last year, just like Lowther did, and they're both back kicking.
The Alouette fan in my house is quite concerned with this development.
I understand that, especially since, as I recall, he's particularly a fan of Maltos Diaz.
Yeah.
Let's hope it's short term, but you never know with the groin injuries. We were going to talk jerseys. Not a lot of news this week, but we'll get into it. The new white jerseys that are the away jerseys, everybody's announcing new ones. I'm told it's because the kids are all into the all-white look, and so we're trying to bring in the younger fans. Now, I can't verify that. My sons are too old to be kids now, and their sons are too young to be the kids they're talking about. But apparently all white, which I usually hate, is the bomb. So first of all, since they wore them on the weekend, what did you think of the Pacific Frost the Lions have put out?
I can't tell you about it. I didn't see any of the games this past weekend, so I'm going to be a little bit out of sorts on that kind of stuff. I can talk about the upcoming Ottawa ones because I saw those, but I didn't see the Lions.
Okay.
I thought Saskatchewan had come out with some white ones too, right?
Yeah.
They're teasing it. They haven't released it.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, they've got them coming out, but I figured we'd start with the Pacific Cross. Did you get a chance to see them,
Yes.
MJ?
Well, I
And what did
saw
you
the
think?
uniforms. I saw the whole little package they put together of, the guys up in the top of Grouse Mountain in the snow. You know what my favorite part of those uniforms are the helmets. They look fancy. They're those silver kind of chrome. The kids these days, chrome is in. All white is in. You know, we can complain about white jerseys all you want and how you hate them, but they're not for our demographic. We're going to watch regardless. This is for younger audience, and this is what's happening. The Ottawa jerseys, I do like them. Someone got mad at me for saying this, but I thought that the helmets shouldn't have been black as the main color if you're going to do an all-white jersey.
I've seen that comment echoed.
Well, the difference may be, and I think the all-white jerseys are more about a uniform change, whereas Ottawa's more about a throwback. The Ottawa jerseys and uniform are a throwback to the original Rough Riders jerseys and uniforms of the 60s. That's why the black helmet works for there, because that was the uniform at the time. Versus, I could pick BC as an example. If they went white head to toe, then yeah, the helmet should be white as well. Calgary's is all white, I think, on the road. We haven't seen it on the road yet. But if they go to a white helmet and a red horse, that'll just look ridiculous. I mean,
all right,
that'll look
so
ridiculous.
the Ottawa, the BC Lions all whites are for young people, and the Ottawa Red Blacks all whites are for old people.
Maybe.
Is that?
Maybe, but the thing is that the Lions...
Nostalgia is also in, so...
Yeah, that's true. 90s are back. They should be wearing 90s uniforms.
Well, no, you don't want to do that. There was no team in the 90s.
Well, not for Ottawa.
And the BC ones, if they're going for an all-white look, they're not all white, which to me saved it. Because I do not like their jerseys. There are too much white and just a little bit of orange around the numbers and that, and I think it looks washed out, but they saved the overall uniform because they paired them with that silver helmet and silver pants. It looks not bad. If they'd gone white pants and white helmet on that, I would have hated it. But again, like you said, they're not going for me.
Maybe the Ticats will do like a yellow chrome jersey.
Yeah, that could look good.
Sky's the limit.
I have no problem with white jerseys. I think white jerseys are traditionally a away color, and that's going back to when TV was black and white, and that's why they had two different color jerseys, so you could tell which team was which in black and white television. And so I have no problems with white jerseys, and I just don't like complete white uniforms when it's white jerseys, white pants. If it's white jerseys and the other dark colored pants, then I think that's a classic uniform, class uniform. But when it's all white, I'm not a big fan of it.
Yeah. Well, I can even live with the all white full uniform if they do some striping on the pants.
Yeah.
Just something to break up the full solid white look. But again, I don't know what the kids would think of that.
Yeah.
Everyone's got white runners.
Yes. We've seen the Riders tease their Prairie Blizzard one. I can't wait to see what that looks like. And yeah, the Red Blacks had came out with their, I'm not sure what they're calling theirs, but as GT said, it's sort of the answer to their home retro jerseys that they brought out last year.
And
I like
the
most
Riders
of them.
had all white a couple years ago, didn't they? I seem to remember the Riders in all white a couple years back. And maybe it was just
Entirely
a third
possible.
jersey or something, but I seem to remember that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering.
They had some jersey. They had like white jersey, white pants, didn't they?
Exactly. I'm positive they did 2 years ago.
I'm sure
Maybe
they
not
did,
last year,
too.
but at least 2 years ago, I'm pretty sure the Riders were in all white for a few games.
Yeah. I don't know. The Riders, I feel like, have like 20 jerseys like in rotation.
Yes. Well, from what I see out there, the fans are saying, this is all great, but we need a black jersey again, too. It's been too long since we had the blacks.
I think they should be like the MLB. You know how like the City Connect jerseys for MLB, like the Milwaukee Brewers just says the Brew Crew, and like the Chicago's like Chi Town. We could have like fun little like cool nickname jerseys for like
Go
Labor Day or something, right? Like,
Yes,
that would be fun.
Yes. You're talking team nicknames, not the player nickname like the XFL tried for a year, which was so ridiculous.
the MLB does both on Player Weekend. They get to wear their nickname as their name on the back of their jersey. But I am talking about City Connects, which has a team name or team nickname.
Yeah, I don't need to see He Hate Me playing slot back in the CFL.
But he's history, and he has his moment.
Yes, exactly. Nobody will remember his name, but they'll remember his nickname.
Exactly.
But speaking about jerseys, GT's got a little bit of an announcement to make here, too.
Yeah, well, we're talking about new jerseys. Let's talk about some jerseys from the past, because at the end of last year, of course, we did a jersey auction, and look at what MJ is wearing today. The jersey that she got in last year's auction, the Casey Printers jersey from the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So this year, I had said that I would auction off or do something with the rest of the jerseys in my collection. So as a reminder, it is a Bombers unnumbered, gold with the different logo. It is a Michael Bishop Saskatchewan jersey. It is a Joseph Toronto jersey, and it is a G-Roy Simon Lions Classic jersey. So what we're going to do
probably
this
going to be the hot one.
Well, what we're going to do this year is I'm decided that rather we're going to auction them, it's simply going to be the cost of the jersey will be the total score of the series between the Stampeders and these teams. So in this case, we're going to start with the Bombers and the Stampeders because they've already played. And the score in that game, if you remember, from 2 weeks ago was 30-28 for the Bombers. So this jersey is now at $58. So every game, we'll take the total points, we'll add them all up, and once the teams have played, whether that be in August or that be in November, I think it's still November we're playing this year, right? Then that will be the final tally to be able to purchase the jersey. Rather than bid on the jersey, you will purchase it, and it will be first come, first serve at that point in time. So that's how I would like to run it this year. So I will keep track of the score and mention it after every time the Stampeders play one of these teams. We will keep track of the score throughout the season, and that will become the dollar value of the jersey. So there you go. That's how I think we will run it this year.
Okay, I like that. Now, just to clarify, is it going to be the total score of the one game that they played, or are you going to wait until they've played their season series and it's the total of the season?
Total of the season.
Good stuff.
So if they only play twice, it will be the total of the 2 games. So if they play the Riders, you will end up spending more money.
Yes.
And I know the Riders fan will spend more money. And hopefully they play BC 3 times because that's a beauty.
Yeah.
And that's deserves to go for some money.
That'll be worth a chunk. Okay, well, you're off to a good start, and I'll try to remember before next week to go through the schedule and let people know when they can start jumping in.
Yes.
To make some videos we can put up on Instagram of what
like
the bids
that
are
idea,
at for each jersey.
Yeah,
okay, we'll figure something out. Away from the pod in a separate moment, but we'll figure something out.
Hopefully people will have interest in that. That G-Roy Simon one is great, but even the others, there's some interesting memories in there.
And just as a reminder, all funds raised by these sales are going to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. We will donate the check at the end of the year to CFL Fans Fight Cancer. So it's for a very, very good cause. So please, if you're interested in supporting something and getting yourself a terrific jersey at the same time, there you go. And I know there's no receipt, unfortunately.
No, we're not a fully registered charity. You get to know that you're going towards a good charity because, as GT said, important. It's CFL Fans Fight Cancer. So thank you for that, GT. That is fantastic. Just jumping ahead now, there was a lot of talk this last week about the attendance of the first week and how dismal it was. The average for the first week was 17,000 and change. So not great. Going into this week, we had some very good games coming up and teams that are maybe a little higher in the winning percentages last year. Would it turn it around? Well, Winnipeg had the sellout. on the Thursday night, 32,343 in the stands. Then we went to Toronto at Montreal, and they had 21,106. And in Montreal, that the stadium isn't as big. That's still a very good number. BC at Saskatchewan, not quite a sellout, but 30,168.
Wow.
So the average attendance jumped from 17,000 and change last week to just under 28,000 this week. Almost 11, well, basically about 10,700 more. And I don't know, average ticket, what, maybe $50? If it is, that's another 500,000 each of those teams raked in. So that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Parts of the league are still really healthy, and hopefully we'll see the other teams sort of jump up in attendance as they start performing more. I'm very impressed with the fans that Ottawa has. Their numbers weren't big, but the fans that are there were still 13 or was it 15, I can't remember, last week, that sat out in a monsoon and watched them. So some of the teams are down to their real hardcore, diehard fans. Others are coming up. They're talking about the fact that BC's climbing back up. So I think it looks good. Any thoughts?
Well, I think again, it's going to probably average out over the course of the year pretty well once both BC and Toronto get back into their own stadiums. Toronto will actually show an increase. You're going to get 32 and 32 or whatever, 32 and 30 in Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, and probably 18 to 20, maybe even as high as 25 in Hamilton. So you're going to have three really much larger attendance numbers than Toronto would normally have. It will boost overall league attendance by doing that as well. It might offset a bit from what they lose in BC with their two games, because there's I think the maximum is going to be 20,000 in Kelowna, if I remember correctly. So, and they're drawing slightly more than that now on average at BC Place. So that'll be a bit of a drop off, but I think overall it'll be well made up for by those three road games for Toronto. And then if Edmonton starts winning, and they'll come back, those fans will come back. So I think this year is going to turn out pretty well.
I guess two thoughts. They did some really amazing crowd shots at the Alouettes game this past weekend, and all it made me want to do is go to an Alouettes game because it seemed like such a fun party. I know they did the rum hut stuff in Winnipeg, but I thought that I would have more fun at Percival. And it is a shame that they can't play football at the same time as World Cup, because if you've seen what's going on in the US, all these Scottish and Norwegian soccer fans at all the baseball games, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, 1,000 soccer fans just sitting and doing their soccer chants at the baseball games, and there's so many people attending those. It's just I mean, obviously I know it can't happen, but the CFL, it's just too bad they couldn't capture on World Cup fever.
Yeah, well, maybe some of the folks going to see the Cup out in Toronto might travel to Hamilton or Ottawa for a game, or Montreal. It's not that much extra travel if you're there.
Yeah, maybe.
The folks coming in to watch in Vancouver, probably not so much, but yeah.
I would love to see a soccer chant of certain players in certain stadiums. I think that would be hilarious. They'd make a really good one about Alexander. You know they would.
The bottom line is, I think the concern about the week one attendance was a little bit of a tempest in a teapot. I think we'll be back to where we should have been anyway. Moving on, we do have, because the World Cup is on, we thought it's only fair that we do a World Cup report. So this week's World Cup report is, most of us don't care about it. We also did... I said most of us, MJ.
Goodness.
Not all. I specifically did not say all. Oh, dear. Okay. Next. Last week, GT presented a little bit of a challenge for you folks out there watching and listening. I had inadvertently dropped in a song lyric, and he suggested maybe we try and fit some in and see if anybody can recognize them. Well, nobody caught anything from last week, but I will ask you guys, first of all, did you drop a lyric?
Yes, I did last week. In retrospect, it was a little tougher, but I made this week's much easier, I think, to find. Remember during the Calgary segment last week, we talked about the McMahon Rabbit, and I quoted Run, Rabbit, Run, which, of course, is a very big line from Breathe by Pink Floyd and Dark Side of the Moon. So that was That was the quote. That was the line.
Okay.
So, and
And,
it's not an obscure track. It is a depth track, but it's not an obscure track. And the line is pretty important. So I thought someone might catch it. But this week I've made it I think a little bit easier for folks. So we'll see.
oh, MJ, were you caught off guard or did you sneak one in?
I did not intentionally, though. If I did, it wasn't. I didn't
Okay.
mean to.
Okay. Well, I did, and I went with something that is probably obscure. So anyway, if you remember, it was, I kind of butchered it, but it's basically, I had an 8th grade education and a good Christian raising. There ain't no need for y'all to go treating me that way, which was Billy Joe Shaver from On a Fast Train to Georgia. And since GT asked for the album and whatnot, that was off Old Five and Dimers from 1973. And if you've never listened to Billy Joe Shaver, if you are at all a country fan, I think that might be the only album he had out, but I just love his music. He is fantastic. We're going to try and do some more of these as we get a chance with it. Last week, GCT said the name of the song and the artist and the album and all that. If you can do it, that's great, but maybe we're being too picky because nobody caught anything or jumped in. So just give us the song and the artist.
Just give us the song. Just give us the song and the artist.
The song,
that's all that matters. Yeah, even the song and the artist. That's all that matters.
Yes, and I have one queued up too. We'll see if there's an opportunity to drop it in, but I've tried to make mine slightly more easy. At least more people might have heard the song. Okay, so that should be fun. Jump in with us. What I'm waiting for is people to start seeing lyrics where we don't intend them.
Yeah, exactly. That'll happen at some point.
Yeah, I remember that from Depeche Mode. Anyway. The other big talk this week is what a weekend for the quarterbacks. I think I read that it's the first weekend since 1975 that 4 quarterbacks threw for over 400 yards in the same weekend. And back then it was U.S. expansion, so we had 7 games going on. This week we had it in 3. More than half the quarterbacks went for 400 yards. It was very good play from the quarterback position pretty much across the board. So which one, not who's the best quarterback in the CFL, this week, and I know it'll be harder for UGT, you didn't see the game, so maybe we'll have to go with them too. This week, which of those quarterbacks was the best of them this week?
You're not going to like my answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to tell you, it's Bo Levi Mitchell. He had a huge bounce, but he didn't have as many yardage as everyone else. And he didn't throw over 400, but he had a huge bounce back game. They came in there and shut a party down, and he ran for 15 yards.
Yes.
All at once, too. That's the shocking. That's the most shocking part.
First down.
Yeah.
Came and shut a party down.
Yeah, he advanced for 15 yards. He's like Trevor. They don't really run. Sometimes they get out there and do the best they can. But no, that was nice.
I used to call it an accelerated shuffle.
Yes. Yeah.
I expect high performances from Alexander and Rourke, and that's not a surprise for me. But I have a little conspiracy theory, and I think they're using pitch-com this year for offenses.
Yeah, you would think they'd have to tell us, but it could be.
I don't think they have to tell you. I think that it just seemed a lot. The offenses usually take quite a while to get going, and they are not. They are on top, and they are ahead of defenses, which makes me wonder if they are using pitch-com.
That might explain it because it was very unusual. And I will say, I thought that it was interesting because they had, I think it was on the Riders-Lions game, they had on the panel, the TSN pregame, they were debating who was the best quarterback in the league. And part of what they said was, you got to look at people like Davis and Nathan because they can run and they're the dual threat. You need to have that. If you're picking a quarterback, you have to have that. And frankly, I thought the 2 best quarterbacks of this weekend were the 2 that stand in the pocket and throw the ball, Trevor and Bo. And frankly, MJ, I'm with you. He had 287 yards, the least yardage of the weekend, but he was at 79.2%. He had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I thought Bo put on a clinic. And I thought Trevor was close behind him. He was even better. He was at 83.3%. 3 touchdowns and 417 yards. But The reason I went with Bo is when you look at it as an overall package, there weren't a lot of mistakes. One that Bo made was missing Kenny downfield for what might have been a touchdown, but that was a harder one. Trevor missed Keyshawn Johnson wide open in the end zone and could have had another score. So that's why I put him second behind Bo. But the others, I thought they played well, but not fantastic. They were all missing throws. They were all making some great throws, but they also all missed throws, missed reads. When we get to the games, I'll talk, maybe about some of the stuff that we saw with it. When we get to fantasy, I'll talk about the fact that I had Sneed, Tyler Sneed for Montreal, who dropped 3 touchdown passes. So that would have put me charging up there with you, MJ. So they didn't get a lot of luck a lot of help from the receivers, but they also didn't put the ball in the best places on some throws, and frankly, everyone's raving about how fantastic Kelly looked. He threw for 445 yards. So yeah, he was the top yardage of the weekend. But they're saying, oh, there was no rust and he's looking great and stuff like that. That's not what I saw. I saw he made some great throws and he made some great reads, but he also missed a lot badly. And it shows up his completion percentage was at 60% in the CFL today. And part of that is they're going downfield a lot. I would have put him down probably with Zach for the lower performances of the weekend.
The interesting thing is, I guess it's because everybody was over 400 that it's the topic. But week 1 wasn't too bad either. When you look at the Winnipeg-Calgary game, they were both on. We were talking about it. Wow, where did that come from? We didn't expect to see that. And Vernon looked really good. And Cody Fajardo looked okay in that monsoon. I mean, he looked okay. I think that there's some really good quarterbacking, and I agree with MJ 100% that the offenses are ahead of where they normally are at this time of the year, for sure, which makes it great. It's more exciting. It's better, right? We don't have that 2 or 3 weeks of the first of the year that are really just preseason games warming up like we've had in the past.
They hit the ground running. They certainly did. Even that first week, even the Montreal Hamilton game, Alexander played very well, and Bo certainly played well enough to win. It was a fumble. If it wasn't for a fumble, they could have won that game.
Yeah,
just a bad timing. And I see so many people already saying, well, Montreal's already beat Hamilton. Well, I didn't learn a lot from that game as far as who the better team was. All right. So we're glad we have quarterbacks this good. Let's enjoy it while we can. The defenses will start to catch up, and invariably, a few of these guys are going to start missing games because we don't get through the season without quarterback injuries. So enjoy the wonderful football while it's there. That takes us up to looking at if there were any notable signings or releases this week. I didn't see a lot other than, as MJ mentioned, Lewis Ward just signed today with Montreal as a kicker, and Mario Alford went to, help me out, Ottawa? Who picked up Mario?
No, it was Anderson, not Alford, right?
It was Mario Anderson.
Yeah. Mario Anderson signed in Ottawa.
Oh, the Alouettes released their returner today, Brooks.
Oh.
Because they're backup running backs on the IL.
Yes. Conley was
Speaking of signings, because that was one that, as you said, MJ, that seemed to, when you were talking about the kicking situation in Montreal, well, the running back situation in Ottawa has had the same kind of connotations when they signed Anderson, who, of course, was in Saskatchewan last year and looked very good when he did get some time there. It was like, wow, what's going on after Greg Bell sat out and seemed to be already in a spat after just coming over from Hamilton. Then it was, no, he actually has an injury. Now, of course, they're saying that he's going to be ready to play this week. And then finally they announced that Elijah Collins, who was the backup, is going on the 6-game injured list. And that's why they signed Mario Anderson. So that's all conundrums and so on. But it just reminds me of how wacky it's been in Ottawa for running backs over the last few years. Like, it's a cursed place for running backs. They've had so many guys go through there, and they make so much noise about the guys that they sign. Like, you just look at it this year, Greg Bell, the number 1 signed running back pay wise in the league, at least in American running backs. and he's injured at the beginning of the year. It's just typical. Last year, Steinbach was going to be the guy. He was going to save them. Remember, he came over from BC. He just had a terrible year for him. It wasn't a great year.
Him.
And now they never played him, and now he's retired. I go thinking back to the year before, of course, it was crazy, man. Raquel Armstead, remember him? He went off the rails and was fighting his teammates. And then he went to Saskatchewan and had that monster game against Calgary. And then he ran out of his welcome there in a hurry, and they released him. And you go back to William Powell, who was a great running back for his first few years in Ottawa. Then he went to BC, if I remember correctly, but I might be wrong, where he left as a free agent and then came back on in his second stint. He was supposed to be the savior again and was horrible. And then they've just gone through so many guys. They have no luck at running back at all. I think there's a black cloud hanging over the running back room in the Ottawa dressing area just because they've had no luck. So I feel bad for Greg Bell. I hope that it's not a major thing, and in fact, he is healthy and ready to go again. But I thought it was worth pointing out just how crazy the Ottawa situation's been with running backs the last few years.
Do you think there's a hex on that locker stall?
Yeah,
possible.
Maybe.
Possible. Who knows? I will say, I think by the time Powell signed away from them the first time, he was already sort of past his best before date, because it wasn't BC, it was Saskatchewan he came to.
Was it?
And he didn't make a lot of noise with the riders at all either, and then he went back and didn't do that great. The thing that I don't quite understand is, why don't they give more of a chance to Daniel Adeboye? How do you say his name?
Adeboye,
yeah, because anytime he gets the ball, he's not breaking off like 90-yarders, but he's not getting that many chances. And once he went in there, what did he get? I think he got something like 65 yards in that game on an average to about 5 yards a carry. He runs nice. I don't know why he's relegated to special teams.
Well, because he's not a Dinwiddie guy. Don't forget. He left Toronto to go to Ottawa because he wasn't getting the chance. When he signed in Toronto as a rookie, everyone thought he would be the Canadian running back to fill Andrew Harris's shoes when Andrew Harris left. And they just went right away from him, and they didn't give him the opportunity at all. And then he's gone to Ottawa, and of course, Condell doesn't run, so he didn't get a chance last year. And now I just don't think he's a Dinwiddie guy. That's my gut, is that he doesn't have faith in either that particular player or, for some reasons, Canadians at running back. I don't know.
I don't know either, but it's
because I'm a big fan of Daniel Adeboye as well. I think he's a terrific running back, and I think given the opportunity, he could turn into a really, really good, solid running back. He may not be that 1,700 yards like some of the top guys combined, but I bet you he'd be up close to 1,000 combined yards between catching and running. He's going to get you 600-700 yards on the ground and 300 to 400 in the air. I bet over the course of a year, if he was a prime running back.
Yeah, he's certainly as good or better than some of the American running backs I've seen in the leagues over the last few years. But we'll see. Okay. I'm going to call an audible here too. I didn't, because I forgot to put this one on the rundown, guys. But I'm going to throw it out there because it's important. There is
I tell you, this has to stop.
I know.
This has to stop.
Hey, adaptability. If you're not adaptable, it's hard to stay on the team. You got to roll with the punches.
You're going to turn into a boy.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Tuinou will lose Sheldon. Look for you in the free agency over the off season. No, this one is an important one, and it's actually a serious one. Baron Miles, who's a longtime CFL player and coach and whatnot, apparently his daughter has a serious illness, life-threatening illness. I haven't seen stated what it is, but Wally Bono and his wife have started a GoFundMe campaign to pay for the treatments that are needed. So I will drop in the show notes here. Check out the show description, and I'll put the link to the GoFundMe campaign, or if you search for it, I'm sure you can find it. But anybody who can give a little bit of money to help them through what's got to be a very tough period in their lives. And of course, our thoughts go out to them.
No, always sad to hear when someone's child is in trouble. If you can contribute, please do so.
Yeah. They've given us Baron's given us a lot of entertainment over the years. So let's be there
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah.
And on to, well, I don't know if it's a happier topic or not, but I wanted to throw this out as a thought for you guys to talk about at home and enter in the comments. Let us know what you think, and I want to hear what the two of you have to say on this. Last week, we were talking about promoting the CFL and where it fits in the world. MJ mentioned that it's in a weird position. It's not as big as the NHL or the NFL or Major League Baseball, but it's not small like the PWHL or the CEBL. It's this sort of middle ground that's people aren't used to. That's a very valid point. And my first thought afterwards, when I was editing and thinking about it, my first thought was, yes, but the CFL's been around for 100 years. These other leagues have been around for less than a decade, I think. You can correct me on that if I'm wrong. It's not that long. So, maybe 30, 40 years down the road, they'll be the size of the CFL. But then my brain did what it does and kept thinking about it and said, well, wait a minute, though, because part of the reason maybe that the CFL has so many old fans is we got to be fans in our youth when the only thing to watch if you wanted Canadian sport was hockey or football. So football became a natural. Now we do have all these new leagues coming in and stuff streaming in from sports in other countries. Do you think these newer leagues have a chance to grow to where the CFL is at least, or is the market just too fragmented for anything other than sort of really big ones and really small leagues?
Mm-hmm. No, I think the PWHL, if it keeps on, I only worry about it in that it seems to be expanding, in my opinion, a little too quickly. That can dilute the player talent, and then it does a dip before it catches up to itself. Even the NFL, the NHL and NBA went through that when they went through their rapid expansions. Major League Baseball even had to do some of that too when they went from 16 teams to 24 teams to 32 teams. All those leagues did in a very quick succession. And there was a lot of complaints from fans, I remember, saying that the quality of the play went down for a few years. And hopefully it turns around and they come back up. But I think that certainly the PWHL, because it also has the advantage of being an international league. So that always gives you extra viewers when you have that international league thing. The CEBL, by the mere fact that it is a Canadian only league like the CFL, I think is that a bit more of a drawback simply because of the inferiority complex that Canadians have. Whereas if it's not Americans in the league or some other country, it's not up to snuff. It's not international. And I think that the Canadian only leagues will always suffer from that. So I'm not sure that it will grow to the same level. But basketball is such a growing sport that will change as well. And if anything, I think in 30 years from now, they could be major minors, as we once said in the other business I was in. So yeah, they'll be pretty big leagues.
Right. So for a long time, you could watch MLB baseball, NHL hockey, and CFL football on CBC anywhere in Canada for free. Every single person in Canada has access to CBC TV. As of next hockey season, none of those will be on CBC anymore. And it's not just sports that has this issue. Like, how many people had survivor parties at their houses on Thursday nights? You talk already, like, if you didn't see a show on Wednesday night, you just didn't get to see it. And everyone would talk about it the next day at work. And sports is one of the last live events that people will talk about. But as we talked about with the broadcasting deal, it's so fragmented across different platforms and attention. I was thinking about I keep somewhat track of like baseball, hockey, PWHL hockey, basketball, football. Like I have there's just it's a lot. It's a lot. And I think the CBL is trying to find a niche area. PWHL is interesting. A lot of people are very disillusioned with NHL hockey and their antics, and people love hockey, but they've had enough of like the establishment, and a lot of people are moving over to PWHL. Still love hockey in a way that makes them like feel okay, because a lot of what's happening in the NHL is not okay. So that's interesting. And women's sports, like the Tempo in Toronto, they're pulling good numbers. Like women's sports is having such a moment. There is a women's super league of soccer now. So women's sports is on the rise. And it's not to take away from anyone else. I think that if you can't pull viewership, that's on you. There are ways to grow games, and there is ways to have viewership. And the people who are doing projecting high are people who are doing things in a kind and equitable, and I don't even know the words for it, but they're not being jerks. And the CFL's fumbled the ball so hard on this so many times, and we talk about it all the time, but they're actually lucky they even have the viewership that they do, to be quite honest. And they're going to have to, I hope it improves. But yeah, CBL and PWHL, fantastic leagues. And a lot of it's about being fun. And I wish that the CFL would go back to more about focusing on, we all want to be serious and be professional, but it's also fun. And
Yes,
I think that's what's
definitely.
missing a lot of the time when you try to be super professional. As an aside, CBL fans, just quick shout out. If you're a Vancouver Bandits fan, Mitch Creek just re-signed, and he put up 29 points in his first game back.
I'm going to take your
Let's have
word
some
for
fun.
that. That's good news, because
Yeah.
don't know at all. Oh,
So I'm curious as to why you say that the CFL is not fun.
Well, I just think they aren't. I looked at that Montreal Alouettes game on Saturday, and that looked like a lot of fun. And I feel like, I don't know, the marketing's been weird. I go to games and they haven't been super. I have a lot more fun at basketball. I feel like I'm hoping, I think the 35-second clock is actually helping with the flow of the game, because it was getting really stilted and there was a lot of commercials, and watching it wasn't as fun. And I want more. I don't know.
So, yeah, because basketball's full on all the time. I mean, they're playing music
Yeah.
during the game while the play is on. They don't even stop at that stage anymore. They used to
Yeah.
stop in between. Now they don't even stop when the game is going on. It's on in the stadium around you at the same time. I don't know if I would agree with you that CFL is not fun. I think it's just a different game. It's like saying baseball's not fun. Well, there's fun. The fun part of baseball is being the stoppage in between every play. So then you can have your chat and your beer and not miss a darn thing. And then you go back to the game. That's sort of what's fun about football for me, and has always been. I love basketball. I go to games here, the 905 games, on a regular basis. I'm not a hockey person anymore. Haven't been for years, so I don't know how the entertainment is on at the ice. But I think it's also about who you're going with and the entertainment around you, as well as the entertainment on the field. I don't have a problem with the fun at a CFL game. When I go in Toronto, which is much maligned, I always find the game fun. They do lots of things to keep the crowd engaged. The crowd is engaged. It's always more fun when it's full. There's no doubt about it. Every stadium is more fun when it's full, but I don't have a particular problem with the fun aspect of the game. I have a particular problem with the stoppage that you mentioned, MJ, for all the commercials and stuff. It makes me crazy, but that's a fact of life. There's nothing we can do about that. I was just curious as to why you were concerned about the fun aspect of it.
I guess maybe it's more about fan engagement. Everything's on social media now, and I feel like they've dropped the ball and they're a little behind on a lot of things.
Sure, they've been behind for years. Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And then that translates to, I know, maybe it's just because I've been at Elks games for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think that might be it. No, honestly.
Maybe this is cloudy, because I was looking at that Montreal game. I'm like,
yeah, maybe you just need to get to another city.
Yeah.
Just get out and get to another city, and then you might change your whole perspective. Because people say that about Toronto too. And as I say, Toronto is a pretty good experience when you get to a game there. Honestly, I think you might be, that might be part of the problem, is that you've been watching a pretty bad team in a pretty small crowd in a pretty big stadium for more than 2 or 3 years, and it loses its fun. I can see that. Absolutely.
I don't even necessarily mind if my team is going, my team's fine too, but if they're going through a bad streak, because I go to sports games all the time where they lose all the time, but I just find that the CFL tends to, in my opinion, this is how I feel. Like that they're just like, well, you're the problem, fan. You're the problem. It's you. And I'm like, actually, what are you doing? You can't just rely on what was fun, like what was working 20 years ago. That doesn't fly. Like, it's not me that's the problem, and it's not the person that's not going anymore's problem. Your job as a team that's trying to make money and a league that's trying to make money is to bring me and other people in for a good entertainment value.
Yes. And
Yeah.
see, when you first said less fun, what I thought of immediately is the fact that, to me, the CFL has always been known for the fact that there are characters in the league you could always count on. If they got an interview, they would say things entertaining. And it wasn't necessarily controversial, but it would be entertaining. There were always people like that. And now the league has clamped down, in my opinion at least, has clamped down on them. If you say something that the league figures is out of turn on social media, you get a fine. If you get this, and it's pushing all the fan-facing interface with the players into that professional mid-game or post-game interview. We're giving 110%. We just got to execute better. They've lost an awful lot of the spontaneity and just the fun that used to be there. That just maybe this old man with rose-colored nostalgia glasses on.
Well, they don't even do post-game stuff anymore, really. Yeah. It just goes right to like Sports Center. Yeah. But you're right. Who was that guy? Who was it that came up during the halftime interview and like yelled at who was it? But there used to be a lot more antics, and maybe they don't seem professional, but I enjoyed them.
But you know, folks like Adriano Belli used to be the kissing bandit, and I'm trying to think of the DN for Saskatchewan for a while. James, can't remember anyway. He always said he wanted to be commissioner. He was the one that said the CFL had the best anti-drug policy in pro sports. It's called the salary. All right. I just noticed, by the way, apparently when I set up tonight, I got my camera leaning a little bit. So anyone watching, don't worry, I'm not stroking out and fading over. It's just my aspect is off, or my vertical's off a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so you're moving along. Fantasy results. Well, first of all, a big shout out to MJ, whose team MJ and the Kid is in the CFL podcast fantasy league. Top of the league this week, #1 score, and she needed it because she was fighting off a heavy challenge from Sheldon of the 2 and Out crew. So I'll let you talk about it, MJ. Tell us what you did and how you got there.
Well, I almost didn't get this team, and I'll tell you why. If you're playing CFL Weekly Fantasy, you may have noticed that people such as Keaton Bergling and Mario Alford and Dante McMahon are available for you to put on your fantasy team.
Not in the league, though.
I had put a whole thing together, and I had Brown as my running back for Toronto because it was the only thing math. And I was like, that's fine. Okay, great. And then, thankfully, what do we call friend people on, like, apps that we talk to all the time that we don't know in real life? Anyway, my Blue Sky acquaintance, Vince.
Yeah, mutuals.
I was talking about it. Yeah, I was like, oh, man, like, why do they have Keaton, all these, like, players who are free agents and practice rosters people available to put on your weekly fantasy? He's like, yeah, they put this, like, Argo running back on there that's not even on the depth chart. And I was like, what? I was like, Brown? He's like, yeah, that's the guy. I'm like, oh my God. So I had to go redo my entire fantasy line.
Well, it certainly worked.
It worked. I was like, I think that the last minute panic vibes really paid off for me. I ended up with 150.8 points.
Excellent.
Yes. And top of the league, like I said. So congratulations there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I started in 14th coming in, so I had work to do.
Yes, and I was 13th with 70.1 points, so I had some stuff to do too. I figured I took a slightly different approach this week. I talked about it on Old Man Plays CFL Weekly Fantasy, and I'll do that again this Thursday. But basically, I ended up with my big money guys. Most of them did okay. I had Davis at quarterback, Davis Alexander, but unfortunately I teamed him up with Sneed, who literally dropped 3 touchdown passes, so could have had a whole bunch more points there. But I locked in on my low price guys. I had Wheatfall from Hamilton and Neal from Winnipeg, and they both balled out for me. So I did much better, more than 50 points better. I had 121.5 No, 121.5 points. That's right. So I was feeling pretty good. That should be enough to get me at the top of the league and win. I was up against the Hamilton Sports Channel, who came in with 121.8 points. I lost by 0.3 points. Oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
I was praying for corrections, but no. So great job, Hamilton Sports Channel. And I'm on to next week, hopefully for my first win against Cooper Trooper from the Canadian Football Countdown. So that was our week. I'm 0-2.
Oh,
MJ's 1-1.
no, let me tell you my fantasy lineup in case you want to steal it
Sure.
for next week.
Tell us who you
All right,
had.
so I had the Alouettes defense. I had Alexander as my captain. I had my running backs. I had Brady. I won't pick him again. That was pointless.
Mhm.
I had Horvath. And then I had my wide receivers are Berryhill and Philpott. And my flex was Neiled. So thanks to Alexander and Philpott,
Yeah.
I did quite well. And the Alouettes defense.
Yes. And I had Brady, who let me down too. I won't be taking, I can tell you two things that I won't be doing at running back. I won't be taking Brady for a while until I see something else. And I won't be taking anyone who's playing against the Riders. So even though Mills is as good as he is and will probably run for 100 yards this week, I'm not going to take him because they look like they're back with that same run defense that's on there. But yeah, it's all fun. It's all in fun, but it can be nerve-wracking as well. I know you're not in the league, GT. Did you do a team this week, or were you still traveling too much?
I was still away too much. As I said,
Yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to watch all the games, let alone pick a team. So I will be
Okay.
more involved this week and maybe get a team entered into it this week. So yeah, things will settle down a bit now.
Exactly.
How many games was there this past week?
3.
Only 3 again. Okay. Same as the
And, yeah.
first week. Okay.
Yeah, we're back to 4 this week, which will make the fantasy easier or harder depending on how you look at it. There's going to be more to choose from.
That's why I
Don't
asked.
pick Keaton Brugling.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing you were saying about players that aren't even on the roster, and then with me, I was looking for a cheap running back. So I thought, well, Montreal Scott is out anyway, and I can go with, I can never pronounce his name right, Teese, I think it is. Anyway, I can go with him, but they also tend to go with their backups at least 1 out of 3 series. So I'll go and look if they got Lawrence at $2,500 and be able to get some better people. He's played 2 weeks now. They don't have him on the fantasy yet.
I don't think the Argos running backs were available. Like they didn't have their top 2 running backs available on fantasy.
I haven't looked at it being away. Is it just because they're not prioritizing the weekly fantasy and only care about the new one? So that is this part of the issue, and maybe they're going to phase it out or something? I don't know. Just curious. Maybe there were issues last year, but it sounds like there's even more this year.
Well, let me tell you, I swear they have AI running this because so the Alouettes defense on Saturday when I looked after the game, Alouettes defense had 2 points. Then yesterday, the Alouettes defense had 10 points. Now today, the Alouettes defense had got 18 points. So my score kept going up, which is fine by me. But I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like it was weird.
Yeah, I didn't realize the Alouettes kept playing after the game was over.
Yeah, they just kept running.
That's a good way to get your defensive points
blocking
up.
punts. Like it just.
We gave up less points in the last 24 hours than we did in that whole game.
Yeah, but I don't know. But then they capped like leagues at 6 people, so that doesn't make sense either. And then people are having because it's not just that GT. Everyone is having trouble with their fantasy. People like they can't take players off the bench. It's like moving players.
Yeah.
Like, people can't pick. Like it's not calculating properly. It's a big mess. It's a big mess. It's embarrassing.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be better with the new website and app. Yes.
Oh yeah, well.
Coming some September. Anyway, that's enough snarkiness. Let's talk about the games that actually happened. So MJ and I will talk about this a lot, and GT will sit and nod and say, "Yeah, sounds good," because he didn't get to see it.
I did get to see the first half of the first game. That's the only that I got to see. So, and it was a heck of a half.
I would feel sorry for you missing all the games, but you were in friggin' Europe, man, so I don't feel sorry for you at all. Okay, couple of things just right off the top that I did notice this week that were distinctly different from last week. We talked about the quarterbacks and the fact that just everybody blew up and was throwing for lots of yardage. The other thing that was really nice to see it was a much better weekend for penalties. Nobody was over 100 yards in penalties. The highest was Saskatchewan with 7 for 95. And then the next highest was Hamilton took 5 for 68. And the other 4 teams were all under 50 yards of penalties. It wasn't sloppy football. It was very good football. It was well played, and that's nice to see. It started out the Thursday night with Hamilton going into Winnipeg and walking away 37-27. And to me, this might have been the least enjoyable game of the week, not only of the week, but of the year, because it was great quarterback play. Bo put on an absolute clinic, and Collaros didn't play bad at all either.
Yeah.
But it's just all the way through. Once you got into the second half, Hamilton had a 2-score lead through the whole second half, and it just never really felt in doubt to me. Whereas at least with the game last week between Ottawa and Edmonton in that monsoon, there was some ugly football, but you felt like it could go either way. So there's that. GT, if you want to jump in, if you saw the first half of it.
It was a shootout. That's the first half was just a complete shootout. I mean, because Bo came out throwing like he does. He loves to do the deep ball early in the game, and he looked terrific. And they had that wonderful drive to score. And then Zach was like, "Okay, my turn." And then it was like, "Bo, okay, my turn." And it was just back and forth. And until that interception in the end zone, it looked like Winnipeg was going to get right back into that game. And that kind of changed things around. The challenge to the challenge. And why is it always the same? And why is it always the referee, right? He's the same guy. Yeah, it's just hilarious. And again, he was laughing as he was making the call. He's like, "Why me? Why do I have to do this challenge to a challenge?" It was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. That first half was terrific, and it sounds like by the scores and the yardage and stuff, it sounds like it was a pretty good overall weekend in football.
The CFL needs to have a Ben Major, just have a TikTok account of just him.
Yeah.
Just him.
The best of, yep.
Like well, there's like, it's interesting because there's a rugby Instagram account I follow, and it has like how the refs and all the interactions with the players with all the referees, like in different games and different leagues, and it is super interesting. Like, why can't the CFL do this? And Ben Major and Andre Proulx would be the perfect. I would love to hear what those players are saying and how those referees handle some of those players during the game. I think that would be super interesting. But of course, it was Ben Major.
Of course it was. Yeah.
Of course. And of course, it was O'Shea with his challenge to the challenge.
Yes.
Say, I don't blame him, because watching it live, as soon as they went up together, the two guys, I said, that's interference. And then oh my goodness, that's an interception. At first I thought he was out of bounds, and then they showed he wasn't out of bounds. So it was a legitimate interception. So I don't blame him for throwing the flag and challenging the challenge. I mean, why not? It made sense because it looked like interference. It did initially.
It was hand fighting.
Yeah, but it was a pretty good push. Yeah,
I'm kind of more towards MJ.
Look at that sweater you wear. Come on.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it was a terrible challenge, but I didn't think he had a lot of chance of getting it. It might have been there, but not the worst challenge of the week. We'll talk about that later. I mentioned in the quarterback section when we were talking about Collaros, and like I said, he played well. As some of the best that I've seen him playing in a while, but there were a couple that I saw that I thought were maybe not big impact plays, but took them off the field anyway. And there was one where he ended up scrambling and burst through the front of the pocket, and you could see easily on the television when he came through up towards the line of scrimmage, Brady was sitting there 8 yards out with nobody else in the picture. So there might have been a defender like 10 yards away from him, but it was an easy check down, and Zach just missed it, took off and ran, didn't get the first down. They were off on 2 and out. And then again, later in the game, there was another series where it was basically the ride and decide, the run pass option. And Zach just took too long to decide. And in the end, he gave Brady the ball, but what was a fantastic opening had closed by then. So just little things like that. And that's being awfully picky about a quarterback. But when you look at the play from people like Bo and Trevor and Davis, you can't afford to be making those mistakes.
You know what? Brady
Am I
had
too harsh?
14.
Do I expect too much? They're
You know
only
what?
human, I know.
Brady had 14 touches that entire game. He had 8 carries and 6
Yeah.
passing reception. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Roundtree had over 124 yards rushing.
And to me, that's the Condell influence. He's got in a close game, and Hamilton starts to score. And instead of doing Winnipeg's usual methodical, we're going to mix up a good balance of runs and we're going to take long drives and keep the other team off the field, he wants to get down the field in a hurry, and it's all passing. Like you said, almost half of Brady's touches were passes.
They did the exact opposite against Calgary and was so confusing. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe Tommy Condell has changed. And then this
Yeah.
week I was like, no, this is exactly what I was expecting.
There was an article on 3 Down this week talking to a bunch of the Bombers defenders, and they were all saying about how disgusted they were in their performance. Now they have to execute better, and I get all that. But they really did not look good on Bo carved them up. It was kind of surgical. And when they did get a chance to tackle, they were not wrapping up. They were throwing shoulders in. There was one play that was a little dump pass out to the flat where they got to him 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and I think there were 4 of them around the ball carrier, all coming in throwing shoulders at him, and he just pinballed off and I believe got the first down. So not impressive.
So Bo came in like he is the most petty man, and I love him. After the game, he posted, there was, a prediction chart. I can't remember if it was the CFL writers or if it was the CFL content people or something, but it had picked, Winnipeg the whole way down. And after the game, he circled it, and it was sorry to disappoint you. So you just know that he was
Yeah. Yeah, they pay attention.
He was mad. He was mad, and I wish he would play like that more often because it was brilliant.
He plays like that all the time. He knows no other way to play.
Yeah.
He's on a mission this year. There's no doubt about it. He looked really good the week before against Montreal. They just lost. But, I mean, it wasn't like he had a bad game. Hamilton's pretty solid and better than, they're looking really good. They're looking really good right now.
Yeah. And then 3 Down Nation wrote a post about him and said that him running for 15 yards was like basically every other quarterback in the league running 60 yards.
Yes.
And he posted it up on his Instagram stories, and he was just like, what's with this backhanded compliment? He was so upset. And then I said, maybe he's been running wind sprints with Trey Ford this offseason.
Yes. Well, hey, and even Trey, they got Trey in at the end of the game with the running package.
That was perfect use of Trey's abilities. They need some yardage. They put him in and run an option package, and he runs 22 yards. And they get the first down, and then they can grind it out. Perfect use of his running ability. And you had to know. They had to know that was going to happen, and they still didn't do anything about it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, well, actually, they should know. It surprised me, and I happily surprised. That was, I thought, a great coaching move. There was one I thought I questioned, because O'Shea's usually a coach that's a real detail type guy. But at the end of the first half, Hamilton had the ball almost to the end of the half and ended up having to kick a field goal with a few seconds left on the clock. It ended up, they got the field goal, there were 2 or 3 seconds left, and Winnipeg came out and took the ball at the 40 and kneeled down and the half was over. And they've got Vavel back there. Unless I'm wrong, I believe it's the receiving team that says we either want to take the ball at the 40 or we want you to kick to us. So why not, in that situation, kick to Vavel and see if he breaks one for you? He was close to it. Other than some injuries, but if you're afraid of injuries, you shouldn't be playing at all, really. So just get him out there and give him the chance. But it just, they never even thought of it. Or decided against it if they did think of it. That the other, I've got 2 other things that I can say about the game quick, and then we'll move on. Unless, do you have anything else that you wanted to?
I just want to let everyone, if you didn't know, if you hadn't heard, Jamal Peters has been released from the hospital and seems to be doing well. He's obviously on the injured list, but he's doing okay.
Yeah, that was
scary.
A scary looking one. You never know. So I'm glad to hear that. Yes, definitely. Best wishes, Jamal. Get well quick and get back out there. They need you. I will finish with a couple of quick points. One of the bright spots for me was from the broadcast when they sent Kate in the stands and she did a random fan interview with Sandra Oleski. And it was so good to see Sandra again. And they just work well together. I enjoyed that quite a lot. And the last thing I have is to say to the Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, welcome to the Tim White experience. Tim looked good in the preseason. Tim looked good in the first game. Tim looked good in a lot of this game. He's getting open some. He's catching some nice balls. 4 for 7. Yeah. Then we get down to where it's late in the game and we got a drive we've got to score on and wide open Tim. And guess what? Frying pan hands come back. Get used to it, folks. That's too nasty, maybe, but it's the truth,
what a
too.
Shame.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Okay, so that's that one in the books. We'll go on to...
Oh, and I just want to say Wheatfall had like such a nice bounce back game.
Yes.
After his fumble there in OT, he just played lights out, and I was happy to see him have a really great game.
Yeah, we started that first quarter with Winnipeg throwing almost exclusively to Neal and Hamilton throwing long ones to Wheatfield. And I'm just like going, yeah, I like this. These are my cheap guys. Anyway, moving on to the next game, Friday night, Toronto, which everyone I think was, well, not everyone was saying it was going to be a blowout. We talked last week about this is the kind of game that Toronto could win. You never know with them, but it looked like a mismatch with Toronto going into Montreal. Ended up a closer game than it looked. It was a 1-point game in under 3 minutes, and then Toronto kind of self-destructed, and Montreal took it 37-30. But it was back and forth. Both quarterbacks did play well. Both quarterbacks missed some passes that they shouldn't have. I enjoyed the fact that they celebrated the World Cup by one of the Montreal defensive linemen thinking he got held and doing a flop that was worthy of any soccer field in the world. And still didn't get the call.
Men's soccer. Men's
soccer. Okay, women don't do that? Okay.
No.
The last thing that I'll say before we talk about it more is, of course, that like I said, it was that close. There was I think Montreal was up by 1 point within close to the 3 minutes. Toronto was deep in their end zone, had to punt. Alway blocked it, and I believe it was Gagne recovered it in the end zone for a touchdown. Then the next time they got the ball, it's getting much closer towards the end, and they come out from, I believe, about their own 30 in a heavy set that looks like a straight run offense. Just let's run out the clock and get out of here. And everybody stays in. It was, I believe, max protection blocking. I think Philpott was the only one they sent downfield and hit him for about a 70 or 80-yard touchdown pass. So that was a nice call by Moss. And then Toronto came back in garbage time and got one more touchdown to pull it within 7. That's my quick recap. Thoughts?
I have a question from that because I did watch the highlight package. And one of the things I noticed in the highlight package was, there was a blue line tracking the ball, almost like the TSN extra stuff. And I don't know if it went on during the game or was it just in the highlight package? Okay, so it was just in the highlight package. Okay. It almost looked like the old Fox when they'd start carrying hockey and it was the line following the puck across the ice.
The glowing puck.
Yeah, that's almost what it looked like.
Guys, did you know that Chad Kelly hasn't played for 580 days?
Oh, yeah.
I was just making sure you knew that.
Might have been mentioned once or twice, yeah.
Yeah. In case you missed it.
Kelly has had success. He's shown that he can be a very talented quarterback. And he has been off for, what was the number? 500 and some days. 500. So, of course, he's... Yeah. So, of course, he's going to be rusty. But I was just amazed at, again, how much they're pumping him up as this brilliant, fantastic quarterback. And he looked adequate on the weekend. They didn't seem to be capable of saying he looks adequate, he needs more time in here. It was just every time that he made a good throw, and he did make several good reads and throws, it was all over that. When something went wrong, it was just not mentioned.
I feel like Montreal gave up a deep ball a lot to him. I was getting mad. Yeah. I was like, where's Dequoy to shut this down?
The Montreal defense did not look great in their first 2 games. They've let in more than I would have expected from Montreal. Now, mind you, Beverette went out. He was on the the questionable list. They started him, and he only made it to, I think, halfway through the second quarter. So that was part of it, too. The other thing, which wasn't on the game, but has come out since then, RDS apparently caught the tail end of it, but there was a report that Kelly got into a shouting match with head coach Mike Miller in the middle of that game. It was initially reported that Kelly had shoved Miller. Now it's coming back saying, no, it was actually Miller, the one that shoved him. But not a great look. And I don't know. I'm even hesitant to put all of this on Kelly. I mean, I do think that he hasn't learned his lesson. He keeps saying, I'm a new man and I'm so much better. I don't think that's true. But it also just seems to be the culture that was there. I mean, I remember last year, Dinwiddie trailing off behind a couple of, I think it was linemen, just screaming and yelling at them. And I thought I remembered one from a couple of years back with McLeod Bethel Thompson and Dinwiddie getting into it on the sidelines.
Yeah.
It just seems like
100%.
the culture of that team doesn't.
Kelly was yelling at receivers on the field.
Yes.
Like, wait till you're on the bench to do that, but just like yelling at them and pointing on the field.
Don't throw them under the bus.
Oh. Bo's been doing that for years.
Yeah.
Bo's been throwing guys under the bus for years. That's not new for quarterback.
Yeah, but I hate it.
So, yeah, I don't like it either particularly, and not seeing this particular game to know all the instances. But it is what it is. It's Kelly, and Chad Kelly is not, in my humble opinion, the sharpest tool in the box. He's a very good quarterback, but he's got anger issues, and that's all there is to it. It's the only way you can put it. And he can't control his emotions. That's immaturity, and until he's able to do that, he's always going to be this guy. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I don't know why the league pumps him as much as they do, considering he is a lightning rod for controversy. So you think they would stay away from it when they have other guys that they could be working as hard that aren't lightning rods for controversy. I'm a little surprised at this stage. As I said last week when we were talking about quarterback rooms, he's in my opinion, he's still one of the top quarterbacks in the league. Or you got to give him some kind of credibility and some kind of sales job by the league and by the broadcaster. You can't ignore him entirely, unfortunately.
Kelly apparently didn't answer questions really at the post-game press conference at all on it. Coach Miller did, and him and other players all seem to be towing this line that, that's just Chad Kelly. He's ultra competitive. You have to understand he is so ultra competitive, and that's just how our relationship works around here. That's how we do things. Well, I'm sorry, I'll shorten it to BS. Because you don't become a professional athlete if you're not ultra competitive. And yet 99, probably better than 99% of them manage to do it without being an arsehole. And you get these few, and there's a few others. And I'm sorry, if that's your relationship, if that's how your relationship has to work, shouting and yelling and shoving each other to get to anywhere, you've got a dysfunctional relationship, in my opinion.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
That, I mean, again, I'm not defending the man by any means.
Yeah.
I am not, to be clear here, I am not defending him as a person. I am only saying that, yes, as an athlete, he's a talented individual. That's all I will say.
You're separating, you're differentiating between the person and the athlete. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, MJ.
My alternative headline for that news article was "Grown Man Throws Temper Tantrum."
Yeah, 100%.
There was some awesome things that happened in this game that were not temper tantrum related.
Yes, there were. There was a lot of them. What have you got for them? Anything in particular to mention?
Oh, first of all, they put Dusty and Luke in the booth together.
Yes, that's true.
So I was like, boy, they were like each other's like ultimate hype man. It was actually kind of cute. And I was like, it's like kind of like that, like the Luke, listening to Luke, some of it, there's this meme going on. It's like heartbreaking. The worst person you made a great point. And I was like,
yeah. Yes.
You did make some good valid points, Luke. All right. Just stick to talking about football. Just stay in your lane, bro. So actually, I was surprised they put those two together after they made Luke do 3-man booths with all the vets and then just sent him off with Dusty.
Yeah.
There you go. Is Philpott have another catch of the year? To contend with his catch of the year from last week? This one, I think, was even crazier. Did you see this one, GT?
No, I saw something in the highlights, but I didn't see it.
Tell you, see if I do this correctly. The defender was in front of him, and he reached around the defender's head and knocked the ball out from the defender as he was going to catch it, and then bobbled it on the sideline and pulled it in.
Yes. I think he's saying to Davis now, just throw it straight at the middle of the defender's back, because that's my sweet spot.
And I will just reach around and pop it out and catch it. And
Unbelievable. And 2 weeks in a row. And I think he's already at something like 200 and almost 300 yards in 2 weeks. And if he doesn't get injured, he's just going to blow up this season.
And you know what? They started off this game with a flea flicker.
Yeah.
And nothing gets your home crowd going like a good flea flicker that pans out and is spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So nice.
Yes.
Love it. Thank you, Anthony Calvillo, for your play calling this game. I quite enjoyed it. Snead continued his one-man wrecking crew of all DBs.
Well, he did, but he made some good, but he couldn't catch the big ones. So, like I said, I was paying specific attention, and there were literally there were 2 in the end zone that should have been caught, and he missed them, and they weren't thrown perfectly, but normally he'd catch them. And then there was another one where he was streaking down the sideline and looked like it probably would have gone for a touchdown, and just got overthrown by about 6 inches. He had a good game, but not as good as his first week. I will say that.
Yeah.
But Phil made up for it with.
You're just bitter.
Don't be salty.
Hey, 0.3 points. I'm bitter. Of course I am.
Don't be salty.
He needed 3 more yards. He didn't even have to catch those touchdowns. He needed 4 more yards. If he'd caught one and fallen forward for 4 yards, I would have won. Sorry.
I don't even let my kid look at you need to implement my rule of fantasy. We're only allowed to check at halftime at the end of the game. You're not allowed to think about it in between. Because otherwise you're just ruining your own fun.
That's right.
Yes.
Argos missed 2 field goals. Is there an issue there?
Yeah, that's another thing that was surprising. Still Hirla, who is in there, and he doesn't normally miss, but
missed 2.
How far were they?
Well, the field goals weren't from the 50. They were decently average field goal attempts. He just
And the one was a bad miss. It wasn't
was
even close.
Shaped really no. Does he have a new holder? Does he?
Yeah, I think they do. I was going to say, I believe they do have a new holder.
Yeah.
That may be part of it then.
Maybe that's part of it. Stay after game, boys, and practice.
Yes.
My last point is how will I know there's a time count violation if the 35-second clock is not on the scoreboard again this week?
Still not there, but it will be eventually.
Sometimes there.
Yeah.
Sometimes not. Mostly not.
Mostly not. And they sometimes pull it up as 35 and then flash it to 20 in the last 3 minutes. I'm with you guys. We said last week, just put it on there as a little widget right on the little score banner and have it there all the time. It would certainly help us.
So actually, I was thinking, GT, you were right last week about baseball. I was watching the Blue Jays, and they do have the counter but you know what? They don't have I was thinking about they don't have the clock when the batter is coming into the box, but they have it for all the pitches they do. But usually there's a anyway. You were right. I just didn't. I wasn't even noticing because it didn't even matter.
Yeah.
But I feel, but the 35-second clock is an in play between, and that's I feel important, especially if.
Yeah, I agree. The 35. We should see the clock wind down for sure.
Because there was a time count violation. I'm like, is there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, hard to tell. We'll have to trust the refs. But I was impressed actually with the Toronto running game. Hicks was doing fairly well in the first half. The line was giving him some space and making some blocks, and I think he got 50 or 60 yards total.
53.
They went away from it in the second half quite a bit, and I still haven't had a chance. I want to go back and see that and see, did they stop calling runs, or was it that they were running RPOs and Kelly just wasn't handing it off in the second half? I'm not sure, but I was a little surprised by that because they had a good balanced attack. It was working well, and then it seemed to shift in the second half, and it wasn't like Montreal had done anything to stop him to that point. Have we worn this one into the ground?
Davis is undefeated.
In the regular season.
13-0.
13-0 regular season.
Yes. Oh, okay. So that brings us to the last game of the weekend, which everyone was calling the premier game, and it probably was. It was very exciting. They did do not banner drop. It's a sign, and they unveiled it, and it was kind of neat. By now, probably everybody's heard they had Jorgen Hughes back and Dante Myers and Mitch Picton, and had the three of them go up and give a little bit of a shout out to the crowd and thank you for the fans and we've done this for you and all of that, and then pulled down the banner and unveiled it and then shotgunned a bunch of beers. So, a Saskatchewan experience. But it was a hell of a game. The difference in the end might have been the fact that the Riders did definitely come out at a full sprint, and it took the Lions about the better part of a quarter, it seemed like, to really get their feet under them, at least on offense. The defense never did quite get there, but Nathan played well enough to make the Saskatchewan defense look a little questionable too. And in the end, it was almost, well, people are calling it the same thing as the Western Final. I'm saying it's a bit of a mirror image, because BC dropped behind. Once they started getting their offense going, they started climbing back into it, chunking away bit by bit by bit. And with a little over 4 minutes left, they took the lead to get a 3-point lead to get ahead. The Riders came back and a very nice march, took it down the field, scored again. So they had the 4-point lead now. And this is where I'm saying sort of the mirror image. The last year in the Western Final, Riders got the ball with 62 seconds or something left and managed to get down and score the touchdown. Nathan got the chance with 48 seconds here to go, and unfortunately they fell kind of short. And I was going to say, we've all heard people say before that football games, at least, I've heard this about other sports too, but football games are decided by 3 or 4 plays through the game. You just never know what those plays are. And this one, you definitely didn't realize what one of the most impactful plays was, because it was BC's first return of the game on a kickoff after Saskatchewan's first touchdown. Didn't go for much yardage, got tackled going out of bounds, but the returner, Sevens McGee, got hurt, rolled up his ankle, couldn't play. They had him booked in to be in the starting offense, so they were down a receiver. And then later in the game, Katoy went down and wasn't able to play, so they were down 2 receivers and didn't have another backup. In that last drive, they ended up putting in a player called Bond, who's a rookie. He's a fullback who, up until now, has played linebacker. They converted him. He's never caught a pass in a game, and for some inexplicable reason, on their last drive, they put him in the position where, frankly, the first one was a check down, but the second one, you could see that was where the play was meant to go, and he dropped both of them, which is unfortunate, but there it goes. Like I say, lots more to talk about, but I'll open it up to any other thoughts here now.
Yeah, I didn't see any of this even in the highlight package. It seemed like there was longer highlight packages available on TSN before. There were like 10 minutes, and they were almost like the game in 8 to 10 minutes. And I didn't see any of those for the games this past weekend.
I was at flag football, so I didn't watch this game, and I tried to find a highlight package that was a 10-minute condensed game. I just want to know why Rourke is the BC Lions top rusher for the week.
Yeah, well, that's because they were playing Saskatchewan. I mean, he was getting open around the edge the way he does and running for yards, but Saskatchewan looked very much like their defense from last year. Most of the runs were stopped at the line. I think Butler got 1 run he got into the end zone, but his only really sort of longer run was 1 for 10 or 12 yards. And to BC's credit, they pretty much did the same thing. Saskatchewan wasn't playing the bully ball they want to play with, using AJ to run out the game. People talk about the fact they get into this, like the Bombers, if they have a lead, they get into this third quarter lull. And it's not all that surprising, because unless the running game is really working, what they did was they ended up with a situation where for about 3 series in a row, I think, they started out with a run to AJ. It went for 2 to 3 yards. Then Harris had to throw. And there were receivers that were open enough that if he was in a got to go in and win this game type drive, he would have been making throws. But they were also close enough that with a 4-point lead, he didn't want to be taking chances. So he put a couple into the ground or just threw them out in those 3 series, and they had 2 and outs from it. So it was sort of the result of play calling. And then once BC got close enough, they kicked it back into gear again and went down and got this winning one. And there were two challenges in this game. There was a really bad challenge by Pierce with BC where Dale Duncan Busby anyway, you know who I'm talking about, Dale. Sorry, I'm talking about you. Caught a nice pass, but then fumbled it. And it bounced out, and a couple of riders tried to jump on it and just slid it back to him, and he wrapped his arms around it. And that was the last picture you had on the sort of the play, and the replay was him there with the ball obviously in his hands. And Pierce challenged it, saying it was a fumble and we recovered it. So I don't know who was telling him what to do, but that was a bad one. On the other side, Mace had a very good challenge because that last drive with, like I say, starting just over 3 minutes to go, they ended up taking a holding penalty right off the bat, and they were down 1st and 20 back on about their own 4. And it would have been 2 and out on the second down. They tried to leak AJ out the side and up the seam, and he got basically a linebacker just ran straight into him. And they made the pass anyway. No interference called. Mace challenged it, and they did call the interference, which in some ways was kind of lucky because I believe by the wording, the ball has to be in the air for it to be pass interference. And when the linebacker first hit Ouellette at about 10 yards out, Harris hadn't thrown the ball yet. It looked like when he saw him being hit, he threw the ball then, trying to get the PI. And it worked. So they managed to march the field, and that was good. And again, earlier in the game, their second touchdown, we had one of the situations where the ball got punted to the coffin corner, and Letcher, the Saskatchewan receiver, was waiting for it to roll into the end zone and roll out, and instead it hit about the 1 yard line and took a sideways bounce and went out at the 1. And they marched the 109 yards and got the touchdown out of that. So they were looking sharp. But again, once BC got back, they were looking sharp. And McInnes had a hell of a game. Keon Schaefer-Baker for Saskatchewan had, what was it, like 9 passes for something around 160 yards. And Emlis had 3 touchdown passes. It was great offensive football, and both defenses were working hard to keep up. See, do I have anything else? Oh, there was a bad call from the officials where it wouldn't have made more than another 5 yards, I don't think, but McInnes caught a ball and got submarine tackled by Milligan, sorry. And unfortunately, Milligan got hurt, and that's got Riders fans a little bit worried. But he rolled off the back of him and popped back up, and they whistled it dead, and he shouldn't have been. They ran to the end zone. And Suter on the broadcast said some weird explanation about the rule is, well, if the guy you fall on is already touching the ground and you fall on him, then you're touching the ground. And no, it was just a bad call by the refs. But I think that's probably most of what I've got here. Neither team got a lot of pressure. Riders got a couple of sacks. I was very impressed with the Saskatchewan line. BC got 1 sack, and they got it by moving Betts inside and lining him up over Fry at the guard spot. And Fry is sort of the weak link on that O-line. And Betts made a nice move, slapped his hands down, and did a swim over him and managed to get the 1 sack in. But mostly it was just great offensive football and a showcase. All right. That's about it. I feel like we're not doing these games credit. It was a fantastic weekend of football. I just hope we're as good this week coming up. We'll see. But we'll jump on. We're going to do our predictions here. But first do you have some power rankings for us, GT?
I do. Power rankings.
Alrighty.
This week, after week 2, I have Saskatchewan at number 1. They're still the defending champions, and they won. Montreal at number 2. They're 2-0 and look very good. Hamilton at number 3. They're 1-1 and look very good in both games, even though they lost the first one. I have Winnipeg at number 4 because they're 1-1. I have Edmonton and Winnipeg's looked okay offensively, at least I think. Edmonton in next because they won. BC because they lost. Calgary because they lost. Toronto because they lost. And Ottawa because they lost. So that's how I see them. And maybe that Toronto, Ottawa, maybe the BC, Calgary, Edmonton mixture there It's so early. It doesn't matter. But that's how I have them this week. So feel
Yes.
free to take shots.
Please let us know in the comments what you think. And yeah, I have a feeling you may get a few shots for putting BC down where you have them. People seem to think better
Well,
than
I
that.
put
But what
BC
do I know? What do
I
I know?
put
I'm just a
BC
5
down.
dressed up as a 9.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I put BC below that, and I did think about that, but I put them down there because they lost and Edmonton
Yeah.
won. So that's why I have them there. It's as simple as that. They lost.
Yeah.
Edmonton
Yeah.
won.
Hey, and you don't have to explain it. They're your power. Well, there are power rankings, but you're our power ranking guy. So I'm just saying, if we've got engaged listeners and fans here, you may get some roasting on that one. That's a bold call, as they say. Okay, so I'll run through quick here notables on the injury reports before we talk about the games. BC receivers is a tough spot in BC. Barry Hill, Katoy, and Seven McGee did not participate in the early days, so they may be tight for receivers on there. Woodruff at tackle was limited, and when he did go out to the game for a little bit, and it looked a lot worse when he wasn't in there, so that could be ugly. Hamilton, McManus, and Peters were on the did not participate, and that was it. There are others on these lists, but unless they're notable names, I'm not taking the time. Toronto, Dwayne Hendricks was still limited, but Herslow was back at full, so that looks good for them. Montreal, Beverett and Maltos Diaz did not participate. And Najee Murray and Stearns, who had a hell of a game on this last week, they're both limited.
Wow.
Scott III is back practicing full, so that's a good thing. Edmonton, Robustelli at receiver and Woodmansey on the O-line did not participate. Saskatchewan, Dalkey, who he's special teams, but he's also the backup on the weak side linebacker, and Hardrick, Lacombo, and Milligan did not participate. So that could hurt, but I think most of them will be back. Milligan, I don't know. He had his shoulder in a sling at the end of the game on the weekend.
I saw a report today that Milligan's going to be out at least 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, that makes sense with what it looked like. Unfortunately, Lacombo did not participate as well, and he was who stepped over and took that position. They put Ford at safety and Lacombo over. So there may be some juggling there. There might be some new faces in. Calgary, Barnes was limited, so that's hopeful that he'll be back. Yeah. Hutchings and Flo were both full participants. So that looks good for them. I didn't see Bagleton on the injured list, so I went looking for it, and apparently he's on the 6th game. And I haven't heard anything about the setback or what happened with that, but they said he was good to go. And Paradis is also on the 6-game list now. So they'll be going with this other kicker for a while. So that's what the teams are looking at like right now on a Tuesday, heading into a weekend where we've got a Friday night game and a triple header on Saturday. So lots of long football.
I was so much, I've been away for 3 weeks and I'm thinking, finally I get back and I can sit down and actually watch games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one game a night. Perfect. I could in the basement, just sitting, relaxing. Now it's like, now I got to tape all these games and try to juggle them in and fit them all in again. And it's just, who decided this weekend we needed 3 games on a Saturday?
Yes.
It doesn't even make sense.
I don't know what did it, but you're a week early because the week after this, we're back to 4 nights in a row. So you just came home a week early. You should have stayed in Europe a week longer.
That's it. I'm going back. That's it. I'm going back.
Okay, so winding down now, getting close to the 2-hour mark. We'll see what it edits out to. But anyway, winding down. So the game predictions. The Friday night one. BC at Hamilton. Why did you go first, MJ?
Hamilton.
Being as Hamilton's
this is the time of year where my husband and I are mortal enemies for one night only. And I am going to pick the Ticats.
GT?
Yeah, I'm taking Hamilton as well. As I said earlier, they're looking sharper than I expected, and they're at home, so I'm taking Hamilton.
Yeah, it's tough to go against BC with Nathan in there, but what Hamilton showed, I think it'll be a high-scoring game, but Yeah, I think we're going to go across the board, Hamilton. Oh, I should point out, by the way, we were all 2-1 last week. You picked Montreal you picked Hamilton, and we both picked Winnipeg and lost that one. And then the flip side was we both took Saskatchewan, you took BC. So anyway, for whatever that's worth. So this is all three of us on Hamilton. Okay, Toronto at Ottawa. Before my voice goes away completely here, we'll let you go first on this one, GT.
The hardest decision of the week. I'm going to take Ottawa. Yeah, I'm going to take Ottawa. I don't know why.
Okay, well, I'll jump in.
I honestly don't.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and say Montreal's beat up Toronto's defense pretty bad, but Ottawa is not the Montreal offense, and the Toronto offense did look, like I said, good, and I'm assuming Kelly will be better this week with another game under his belt, so I'm going with Toronto. You get to round it up. Make the decision for us, MJ.
This is like Dinwiddie versus old team.
That's why I kind of went Ottawa.
And it's in Ottawa? Is it going to pour rain, I wonder? Probably.
Better than 50% chance, probably, yeah.
Yeah, as it does in Ottawa. Ottawa's already done a ground game in the pouring rain. Who's Toronto's running back? Hicks?
May or may not have Bell in. He is full. He's practicing full. But
you know what? Gonna cheer for my former tie cap. I'll pick Ottawa.
Okay. So the podcast will also pick Ottawa. Bold choice again.
This is a silly pick. It's a silly pick. I don't even know what's going to happen. Like this game,
which will probably means Ottawa will. It's the CFL. Let the chaos reign.
I don't know what's going to.
Okay.
I don't know.
And Montreal at Edmonton. I haven't gone first yet. As good as Edmonton looks, and as much as the Montreal defense has struggled, and as much as they have to go almost the full way across the country, and at least it's an afternoon game, I'm going to go with Montreal. I guess you get second here, Jay.
All right. So I am hopefully going to this game. And last year when the Alouettes were in town and I was at the game, Alexander tore his hamstring. So I hope, knock on wood, it is not me and my kid that are the bad vibes. And they play well. But all jokes aside, he's undefeated, and it's not going to be Edmonton taking him down.
No.
Yeah,
but I will say, during the game this week, there was a point in the first quarter where Alexander came up and looked like he was limping a bit, and you could feel the air just rush out of that stadium. They're on pins and needles about it. Anyway, GT, who do you think got here?
Montreal. Yeah, Edmonton's got a few injuries, key injuries too, that I think is going to impact the game. So yeah, I'm taking Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah, although it is going to be a rainy day here probably, so the ground game might come into play where Rankin is going to shine, but I'm going to pick
and if Montreal doesn't have Beverette in there, could be. And then the last one, which is Calgary at Saskatchewan, and since there's both of us have teams we're cheering for here, we're going to let MJ pick first.
No. You guys go and I'll tie break.
No, yeah. I rule with an iron fist.
I don't know. It's in Calgary. It's basically a home game for Saskatchewan. Is Flo back?
Yes. Or at least he's practicing full. Him and Hutchings are both practicing full, it says.
Him and Hutchings are practicing full.
But apparently they still don't have 100% clearance. According to Dickinson's post-practice comments today, he said once the doctors give their full approval. So they're still, even though they're full practice, they still don't have 100% approval physically from the doctors to be able to play. So they're not. We won't know that until probably Thursday or Friday whether they're going to go.
I'm going to make my pick assuming they have.
I expect them to go. But having said all that, I expect them to both be playing.
Yeah. It's going to be really bad for Calgary if they go 0-2 in their first two home games. And I think VA is really mad about what happened last time, and they've had a week to stew about it. AJ didn't do anything. I'm going to pick Calgary.
Okay.
If
How about you, GT?
the boys are on defense, I'm going to pick Calgary.
I'll let you decide. Do you go next or do I, GT?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm sort of with MJ, not completely though. This is a really tough one to pick because I would say after this Saskatchewan performance this weekend that definitely have to pick them. But last year, the matchup was not good. And they've got back a lot of that same defense now. I'm not really as concerned about the Calgary offense. I know what they'll do, but against a bog standard sort of generic defense, I think Saskatchewan would outscore them, especially after what I saw this week. But they seem to have their number, but I'm still going to go back to Saskatchewan, so I'm going to pick them.
Well, I was leaning towards Saskatchewan as well, only because they just are sort of rolling. But with the Milligan injury and some movement around in the back end, if that comes to fruition, if they do have to move some pieces around, that's going to open up things I think what Calgary might be able to exploit. So I'm going to take Calgary more because of Saskatchewan's issues than Calgary's than anything else. So yeah, I'm taking Calgary because of it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that. The thing with especially with it being Milligan, if it was a corner that went down, I'd say, well, okay, we've got Bell, the rookie we brought in, and he looked okay in the preseason. He might be able to hold down a corner, but neither of their corners, to me, are players that can come inside to halfback and play well. So like I said, they put Lacumbo over there and put Ford to safety. I don't know who they're going to put into with a week's practice. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But on the other hand, like I said, I really think it's going to come down to how that Calgary defense, if they can do the same thing, because Saskatchewan looked so good. I was wrong last week. I said in the Saskatchewan BC game, if you recall, I said 25 points is the cutoff. If the winning score is less than that, Saskatchewan gets it. If it's higher, BC takes it. And they were both higher, but Saskatchewan still pulled it out. So I have a little more faith in the offense right now. I don't know, though. This is almost, like I said, a flip a coin for me. This to me is harder than the Toronto-Ottawa game to pick.
Yeah, well, I think the difference here is that it's two good teams versus two bad teams. They're equally hard to pick because they're both, but the difference is between the quality of the teams, I think. So.
Yeah, exactly. And, and none of them are really all that easy. BC and Hamilton are also two very good teams. So we've got them. Yeah. The only one that really looks like you should be able to predict it is Montreal at Edmonton. So, of course, watch Cody go out and have a field day and them take it by 20 points or something. I don't know. I love the CFL. I just don't try to figure out what's going on. So that's it. Let's close off with any closing thoughts in your social medias. GT, you get to say goodbye first.
Goodbye.
Okay, MJ? Have we lost you, MJ?
You're okay. You're right. Okay. I thought I was waiting for
No, that's...
Yeah, I'm running the Instagram account. Appreciate all your comments this past week. I'm on Blue Sky Sports and Plants. If you're at the Edmonton Elks game, come say hi.
Okay, good stuff. And before I go, I'll say, by the way, JT, you look amazingly rested. I thought you were going to look a lot more tired after 2 or 3 weeks of traveling. So looking good. But
thank you. I'm fading here, as you could tell with my accent, but nonetheless.
Okay, we'll let you crash
and go to bed.
Yeah. In fact, the rest is me, so you can nod off if you want now.
Yeah.
Because I'm of course at oldman-sac.bluesky.social, and this at the CFL Outsiders is on just about any of the social media platforms of any size, all the Canadian ones, and no Facebook, of course. I've also, for better or for worse, if you check out our YouTube channel, which you might be watching this on, you might be listening on the podcast. If you want to go to the YouTube channel, I've taken to doing some little 2 or 3 minute commentary videos on stuff that catches my eye. Those will keep going up. These two might decide to join in with things like that. We're just trying to keep you educated, or not educated, informed a little bit, and mostly entertained. And seems like we're having some success at least, so we enjoy that. Please, if you are entertained, hit the subscribe button, drop us a like. That hugely helpful. On the podcasters, I never realized, even though I use Apple Podcasts, just how easy it is to do a review in there. So write a review or drop us a 5-star rating. All that helps build the CFL Outsiders empire. And I think that's about it. I'll be back Thursday with Old Man Plays CFL Weekly Fantasy. If anyone wants to check that out for my losing take on things, I'm 0-2. And otherwise, I hope everybody has a good week in Pick'em and in fantasy. And more important, I hope the CFL has a great week and we are all highly entertained and we're coming back here just giddy and giggling next week. But until next week, for GT and MJ, this is Old Man saying, get the hell off my lawn.